Hello, my name is Rachel, and we are about to read the entire Wayward children's series. So this series vlog is all about Wayward Children by Shauna McGuire. I recently read Every Heart a Doorway probably a couple months ago and fell in love with it. So I immediately went out and bought the rest of the books in the series, and I am lucky enough to have an advanced reader's copy of the next book in the series that comes out very, very early 2021. So I'm going to plow through all 6 of these books in this vlog and take you along. So I am going to be talking about the books, so there may be spoilers. So alert, maybe spoilers. I feel like most people have read these though, so I don't think I'm going to spoil things for a lot of people. I feel like I was really late to the Wayward Children series train. So again, just be aware that there might be spoilers. I won't reveal anything that's like super spoilery, but just be aware. If you haven't read them, maybe read them first, or read them with me in this vlog, and then come back and watch this video. But I'm super excited. Yes, so the first thing I'm going to do is fuel up. I have some breakfast. I'm going to watch some booktube, get inspired to read. Then I'm going to make a big old cup of coffee. And then we're going to start with rereading Every Heart a Doorway so I get the full-fledged experience. So I will check in a little while when we're ready to get started with this one. All right, y'all. I'm ready to read. I've got my nice little t-shirt blanket. I've got my little stuffed animal that I use to prop my books up. I got a candle going. I've got the Naturescape channel going in the background for a little ambiance. I have my delicious caramel flavored coffee. And I think I am ready for a good day of reading. So we are going to start with a reread of Every Heart a Doorway. So I'm going to jump in, and if I find some things that I want to share along the way, I will, and I'm just going to keep you posted. I know that one of the things that I really liked about this series is the idea of the doorways. If you're unfamiliar with the series, it's really based around these portals that people find, and in this particular book, we're dealing with a lot of younger people who have found a doorway to a world that they feel like is their actual, true home. They feel like this is a place where they really belong, and for some reason or other, they have been ejected from that world now, and they're just kind of distraught because they're desperate to get back to this world where they feel like they belong. And our main character in this book goes to what kind of appears to be some sort of kind of underworld. Things are really calm and still and quiet, and I just feel like with the writing, you just feel the longing in these characters to go back to these places. So I don't know, I just really liked it. I hope we see more about the different worlds in all of these books, because that's one thing I really wanted from this one. This one takes place in basically our world, so it's very typical to what we experience, so there's not a lot of experiencing these other worlds. You hear about them through the other characters, but I really want to experience these other worlds myself. So that's my hope for this series. And if nothing else, then just at least to learn more about them, because all of these worlds seem very, very fascinating. So I'll check in a little while after I make some progress in my reread of Every Heart a Doorway. I'm not very far in, and I've already stumbled on one of my favorite passages from my first read through, so I thought I would jump on and share. They're talking about the main caretaker for this home of wayward children. Her name is Eleanor West, and they're describing her, and they say, there was still something unfinished around her eyes. She wasn't done yet. She was a story, not an epilogue, and if she chose to narrate her own life one word at a time as she descended the stairs to meet her newest arrival, that wasn't hurting anyone. Narration was a hard habit to break, after all. Sometimes it was all a body had. I just really, really love that. I love she was a story, not an epilogue. I like that. So we're going to jump back in. Like I said, our main woman who's taking care of all these children, her name is Eleanor, and she is about to greet her newest charge named Nancy. Nancy is kind of our main character throughout this book. We're learning all about this world through Nancy's perspective, really. And yeah, Nancy is just about to arrive. So I just got to another part about 60 pages in that really resonated with me the last time. We're seeing our main character, Nancy, go through her orientation. So she's had her first full day. This is the beginning of her second day at the Home for Wayward Children, and she's being like inundated with all of this information about whether worlds are like inherently good or evil or logic or nonsense or etc., etc. And so she thinks with like a really basic question of why are there more girls here than there are boys? And the answer that Lundy, the psychologist, gives is this paragraph, and I don't know, it just really stood out to me, so I'm going to share it. So she says, why are there more girls here than boys? And Lundy replies back, because boys will be boys is a self-fulfilling prophecy. They're too loud on the whole to be easily misplaced or overlooked. When they disappear from the home, parents send search parties to dredge them out of swamps and drag them away from frog ponds. It's not innate, it's learned, but it protects them from the doors, keeps them safe at home. Call it irony if you like, but we spend so much time waiting for our boys to stray that they never have the opportunity. We notice the silence of men. We depend upon the silence of women. And I just thought that was, like I said, very striking, and I wanted to share. So, like I said, I'm about 60 pages in, and like I said, we're in Nancy's kind of orientation. This is going to be her second full day. She's going around and meeting all of the other people who have been, again, ejected from their worlds for whatever reason. So we've also met Jack and Jill, which are two twin girls who I believe show up in at least 2 of the other books coming up later. So I'm making like particular note about them, and I'll be interested to see what other stories we come across. So I took a little bit of a break, and I talked to my mom a little bit, and I had to get a new candle. I decided, since we have a lovely beach scene going on, this is that Naturescape channel I was telling you about that I always have going. I decided to go with Beach Walk and burn a little bit of this today since my other candle just burnt out. So yeah, we're gonna start the candle and get back to reading. Hey everyone, I just finished up my reread of Every Heart a Doorway by Shauna Maguire. So book 1 down in this series reading, and I just wanted to say that I loved it as much as I did the first time. I think one of the things that I like the most about this book is the different levels that you can engage with as you're reading, even in a small book. It's less than 200 pages, but there's just so much to unpack here. You can access it at like the surface level, just about these magical worlds and portals and these people, being able to escape to these worlds. And I remember thinking, how fascinating would it be if stories like this originate from authors like Shauna Maguire, maybe finding their own doors and being sent back to our quote-unquote normal world, and that's where they get all the plots of their books. Pew! Did your mind just explode? I bet it did. I mean, I can just imagine that. If you're being ejected from a world where you feel like it's your home, but you can't let it go, essentially that was the purpose of this Wayward school, to teach these kids how to adjust to a life where they can appreciate their home portal world without having to suffer a ton in this world. Basically how to move on and grieve that loss of the world without it destroying their entire life here in our normal world. And that's what made me think about it. Can you imagine that maybe that's where fantasy stories come from? I just thought that was so fun. So there is this kind of fantastical level that you can engage with, and also just kind of think about what kind of a world you would be in. There are several things that went on in this book that I'm going to talk about in a minute that make me totally understand why several of these characters would not only want to go back to their world, but really not look back if they had to leave their family members behind. Not all these characters had a great home life. They didn't have families that were able to accept them the way they were, so they were more than willing to leave those people behind in order to find a place where they do feel like they're going to fit in. So, I mean, that makes sense to me, but I don't have that situation. I love my family so much, and we have really good relationships, so that's one thing that always resonated with me, especially in this reread, is that I just, even if I found a place that felt more homey than this world, I just couldn't leave them behind. That would be a real struggle for me. But I definitely think I would end up in a logic world if I found a door, because I am a librarian. Your girl loves the Dewey Decimal System, all organizational systems, planners. I used to be a math teacher, so I really just like logical thinking. So I would not survive at all in a nonlinear, chaos, nonsense world. I just would not make it. But beyond that, I don't really know what else I would be into. Some of the worlds described in here, the moors, which I believe we get more of in later books. That's where Jack and Jill are from, and it is kind of, I think their world is a little bit more logical, but it's very kind of grim and dark. There's like a vampire lord and like a mad scientist. There is some like chaos to it, but it does seem a little bit logical. I would not be happy there. Our main character in this book, Nancy, came from an underworld that just seemed the only word that comes to mind with Nancy's world is just calm. They value like stillness and not a lot of bright colors, not a lot of bright light, just dim, slow, quiet things. And while I don't think that would be like my forever place, I think I could appreciate a world like that where it was just a little bit more calm. But yeah, I think it's just really fun on a surface level to think about what this book really means with the fantasy realms. Do you know what I mean? Where would you fit in? Who would you be willing to leave behind to find a place that you actually fit? It's getting deeper already if you're just taking it at face value, but as I said, we have characters who aren't really accepted. We have different genders, different sexual orientations, just different outlooks represented in all of these people. And several of them, just like I said, aren't accepted at home. Either be it because of their preferences, sexually, gender-wise, whatever. Some of their parents rejected them just based on the way that they're choosing to live their life, their preferred identity, just the way they really are, their true selves. They're not accepted in this world in general. And you can see things like that in several of the quotes that I mentioned earlier. I think you really could take this book at such a deeper level about how people are treated, how people are accepted here in our world. Even when we got into the excerpt about boys not being at the school as much, because typically they're missed quicker. People are watching them a lot harder. They're expecting them to get into trouble, so there's not as much leeway there for them to find their doors, where girls are kind of expected to be silent and can kind of wander off. To me, one of the things I thought about was, the idea of maybe toxic masculinity and boys not being given as much leeway to find a place where they fit maybe as girls. They have a lot more rigid, specific set of standards they have to fill in order to be accepted. So, you really can take so much of this book at both a, like I said, kind of more of a surface, fantastical level, and as a real world acceptance level of people being able to find a place where they feel comfortable being themselves and also being accepted. So in less than 200 pages, I think it's like 170 pages, Shauna Maguire manages to cover all of these things. So if you have not yet read this, I highly, highly recommend it. But you do need to buzz forward a little bit because I'm going to be talking about the plot here. I really just liked this plot too. I found this book to be slow and fast at the same time. Like, it went slow enough to where I was enjoying it. I didn't feel like we were barreling towards the end, but it was fast enough to where I was never really bored. We're constantly learning about these new places. We're constantly trying to figure out what is happening in the world of these children at the school. We're trying to figure out why everybody's there, how they've got there, what their situation is, both in this world and in their past world, just everything. There's just so much to unpack. Plus, there's essentially like a whole murder mystery here. So again, if you haven't read it, you might want to buzz forward a little bit here. We have 2 girls and a teacher that die, and a third girl almost about to die. And it's just, you're wondering who is doing this, what is happening, and in all of these realms, you're trying to piece together what you know about the world, who would benefit from this. You're worried about these people. They feel like they're not at home, and now they might be losing this home. It's just very intense. It does seem like it's high stakes. It's interesting how everybody's differences really mesh together to keep the plot moving. I just found it very, very, very interesting. And to find out in the end who it was kind of, I felt like I kind of had an idea and I was right, but in another way I was still shocked of who it was. And I was very, again, I'm trying, even if you're forwarding, I'm trying not to spoil things. I would just be so sad if I spoiled it, but to see the people who do find doorways in the end, it's interesting. And like I said, I myself can't relate to being able to leave my family behind, but in the concept of this world and in the ideas in this book, I can understand that. And just this feeling of being able to go home and feel comfortable just is such a satisfying feeling. So while I totally feel so sorry for all the people they're leaving behind, you can just totally be happy for the people who do find their doors again and get to go home. So love this book. So good. I liked all of the plot. I liked, like I said, all of the ideas that you could discuss. This would be perfect for a book club because there's just so much to unpack from such a short book. Love, love, love this book. 4.5 stars. I'm so excited to start the next one.